This is a story about a couple. The husband, his name was perfectly normal. He was called Zachariah. But the wife, she had one of those weird Bible names. She was called Elizabeth. But don't worry, if you forget, you can think of it as Elizabeth. Elizabeth works fine. So Zachariah is married to Elizabeth. The two of them are very happy together, but they would dearly love to have a family. Unfortunately, at this point in the story, Zachariah and Elizabeth are both very old. And they still haven't had any children. But Zachariah, well, he's still praying. Now, Zachariah was a priest. And one day he is chosen to go into God's temple to light some oil lamps and put some bread out and do priestly stuff. Now, this was a big deal. This is probably the only time in his entire life he would get to go into the temple. So you can imagine when he goes in, he's feeling a bit nervous. Now, he's never been in the temple before, but he's fairly sure that that thing should not be there. I mean, the other priests, they talked a lot about what he had to do and what the temple was like, and they'd never mentioned flying angels once. As a result, he's a bit taken aback. Fortunately, the angel reassuringly says, "Do not be afraid, Zachariah." To be honest, if he'd put the sword down, it would have been a bit more convincing. The angel says, "Don't be afraid, Zachariah. God has sent me to tell you that you and your lovely wife, Elizabeth, are going to have a baby boy. And you're to name him John." Handy little parenting tip there. Always label your baby. That way you know which one to take home at the end of the day. It's also why your parents put your name in the side of clothes when they send you to school. Anyhow, so the angel says, this John, he will be a mighty man of God. From even before he's born, he'll be filled with the Holy Spirit. He's not allowed to drink beer or wine or any other drink with alcohol in. And he will be used by God to bring many people back to him. In fact, said the angel, he's going to be a bit like Elijah, preparing the way for the Lord. Hang on a second, says Zachariah. How do I know that's actually going to happen? I mean, myself and my wife, we're pretty old. Maybe it's not going to work. You know, this is what really annoys me, says the angel. I am an angel. Did you not notice the wings? Not only that, but I am the angel Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God. And when God says something is going to happen, it's going to happen. I mean, what do you want? Some sort of a sign? Fine, I'll give you a sign. Here's your sign. You can't talk anymore. What you got to say to that? Oh wait, you can't, because you can't talk anymore. If your mum is so stupid she went to get an iPad from the doctors, then say nothing. You said nothing. Your mum is a little stupid. Anyhow, I don't think Angel Gabriel was quite like that. I don't think he said all of that stuff. But he was certainly unhappy. And it was definitely the case that after this, John, he couldn't say anything. In fact, he couldn't say anything for the next 9 months. During that time, he and his wife Elizabeth get a visit from a lady called Mary, who, as it happens, is also expecting a baby. She and Elizabeth have a little sing-song. They chat about mum stuff, seeing the angel Gabriel, those sorts of things. And then Mary turns and heads home. There's probably some sort of story behind that, but it's another story. Finally, after many months, it comes to time for the baby to be born. And when the baby's born, the villagers gather round for the all-important baby naming ceremony. And together they pronounce, "We name this child Zachariah." Hang on, goes Elizabeth. His name's John. To which the villagers go, Nope, we're naming him Zachariah after his father. His father's name's not John. You should know that, in fact, you're his wife. yeah, I know what my husband's name is, goes Elizabeth, but we're calling the baby John. No, you're not. Go the villagers, because your husband's name isn't John, and the baby's granddad's name isn't John, and the baby's great granddad's name is John. In fact, nobody in your family is called John. Anyhow, if your husband wanted him named John, he'd have said something by now. Oh wait, you can't talk, can you? Oh, sorry. Hang on. If your mum is so stupid that when somebody says it's chilly outside, she goes and gets a knife and fork, then say nothing. Yeah, never mind, we'll finish that later. Anyhow, they surround Zachariah and they go, Zachariah, your baby, that thing, that little human down there, that we need to name him. How can we mime name? Do you want name John? Now, they're making quite a big fuss of this, and I suspect that Zachariah is thinking to himself, I can't speak, but I'm not deaf. Don't fall into this trap. Don't treat people who are disabled as though they're stupid. So, eventually Zachariah, I don't know, gets a stick or something and he writes on the ground, the baby's name is John. And at that moment, he can speak again. What does he do? He sings a song. And that child, that John, well, when he grows up, he becomes John the Baptist, the person who prepared the way for Jesus. And I guess there's a lot of things we could learn from that story. We could talk about how Zechariah kept praying even when it seemed as though his prayers weren't being answered. We could talk about how John was dedicated to God by not drinking alcohol because he wanted to serve him. But for me, perhaps the biggest lesson, well, it's all about believing God. Zechariah didn't believe the angel. And I want to recommend that if an angel turns up and tells you something from God, probably you want to believe that. And in fact, even if an angel doesn't turn up, if God tells you something in the Bible, you want to believe that that thing is going to happen. And I say that because a lot of Christians, they kind of believe that God has saved them and given them a place in heaven and tells them they've got to go out and serve him. But although they believe that, they don't seem to live that way in their life. It's almost as though they kind of hedge their bets. Instead of going out and serving God, they spend all their time earning money, or raising a family, or going on holiday. A Christian is someone who's supposed to believe. So let's believe the things that God says and live our lives those ways.